further advising RFK and Donald Trump on vaccines or anything else, I would say I'd like for science to go back to be science. Because during COVID and during the last few years, science became religion. You know, when we're putting people up on pedestals and making prayer candles with their image on it and sewing pillows with their face on it, that's no longer science. That became a religion. So if I were in their shoes, I would say science is going to rule. Evidence-based decision-making is going to rule, and that's how we're going to make all our decisions.
That's Republican Scott Jennings calling out a panel of smug political hacks on CNN for getting upset that an anti-establishment candidate is making appointments that dare question their beloved experts. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and I'm not sure that I've ever seen a political party sell out as quickly as the Democrats have. I mean, let's not forget that this was a group that was famously against the man, and in the 90s used Rage Against the Machine as a rallying cry. Now they're clutching their pearls because people won't blindly do what they tell them, and worse yet, have the audacity to question their ruling class of pseudo-intellectuals.
So we're not here talking about COVID vaccines, right? We're talking about measles, mumps, and rubella. Trump is now all of a sudden saying that he doesn't think that that necessarily should be a part of when you send your kids to school and you're hoping that everybody around them is vaccinated adequately for these old illnesses that could kill them?
I think there's a number of things going on today. Number one, RFK hit the right note on Capitol Hill on the polio vaccine. Polio vaccine's fine. The boss, Trump, laid down the marker. We're not touching the polio vaccine. This was a frenzy over the last few days. This was totally put to bed today. So that's number one. Number two, if I were in their shoes, I would just simply say everything we do is going to be based on science and evidence-based decision-making, because that's all anybody really wants to hear. And if I also think it's important for us to remember, why are we here at all in this moment where people are questioning the public health regime? And it is all out of COVID. Everything comes from COVID. Things we were told that weren't true, things about the vaccine that we were told that weren't true. This has caused people, in the past, folks might have just accepted this sight unseen. Now, I think it's legitimate for Americans to say, are we being told the absolute truth by the supposed experts? I don't have a problem with those questions.
I'm old enough to remember hydroxychloroquine and the horse tranquilizer and all that stuff. I mean, those things weren't true either. Okay, so let's be honest about the fact that there was misinformation happening pretty far and wide in the COVID era. And it's not just that we were telling people the vaccine is the best thing we've got so far to help you in this moment.
But millions of school children, millions of people's small businesses,
I understand
millions of lives were totally upended on things that ultimately we deeply regret.
But it wasn't necessarily all because of science. And I think what we do a lot of times...
It was because we were lied to about the science.
Well, I mean, well, let me just say this.
6 feet
If I would have...
You know, all of this hysteria about not trusting the experts reminds me of when Oregon passed a law that let residents pump their own gas, and people immediately started freaking out because they thought they didn't have the knowledge or experience to do it, which is entirely the point of why government and establishment media push this kind of narrative so hard. They want you to become so dependent on something that you're terrified to even question it. It's what they've done with schooling your own children, and it's what they're trying to do with healthcare.
This phrase, trust the experts, it's not a thing. It certainly is not a feature of democracy. It's not a feature of science. In science, you don't trust the experts. Never. No, I've had over 500 cases. And in each one of them, there was scientific controversy, and there was experts on both sides. When I sued Monsanto came in with experts from Stanford, Harvard, and Yale. My wife, who's an actor, came to court that day, on the last day of their testimony. She watched these people, and then afterwards, and they're so convincing. She walked out and she said, "Why are you even troubling this poor company?" To me. And I would wait till tomorrow. The next day, we had our experts from Harvard, Stanford, and Yale, and the jury gave us $2.2 billion. They had heard both of them, and they had to decide which expert is lying. And experts have their own prejudice, they have their own biases, and their own ambitions, et cetera. And so it's not, trusting the experts is not a feature of science. It's not a feature of democracy. It's a feature of religion and totalitarianism. But it's not something we do.
RFK Jr. raises a good point that should be fairly obvious enough to people remotely curious about things, and it's that appeals to authority often overlook the fact that experts can exist on both sides of an issue for various reasons. I mean, it's a little funny that the left is constantly saying how everything's on a spectrum except their opinions on science. Then those are clear-cut cases of right and wrong, and you're a conspiracy theorist if you dare question it. But of course we know that's all bunk, and just like when they claim to speak their truth, it's a tool used to silence common sense opposition on an issue. But let me know what you think. Are Trump and RFK Jr. being too aggressive in their response to expertise from the ruling class, or not enough? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye!